All right, so with that, hi and welcome to the Hive with Danielle and Brian. Today I'm joined by Ryan.
Hello.
CHEWIE's finally back.
Hi.
We have Danielle Dutton.
Hello.
Sam Garrison.
Hello.
And for the first time ever, Ben Cam.
Hey guys, what's up?
So we're going to get started with a quick where have you been doing. I will go first. I've been playing Sunset Overdrive, and I've been playing the shit out of it. It's an Xbox One exclusive, and I was pretty convinced it was going to suck, and it doesn't. It's if you've ever enjoyed Saints Row or Infamous, if they had a baby, this is it. And that's it for me.
I started watching the new mid-season premiere of Last Man on Earth. It's great. It was really cool. It was a Jason Sudeikis focused episode.
I loved it.
And yeah, it was wonderful.
fantastic.
I was so excited. So that was really cool. I'm really stoked to see where this season goes, and I thought Jacob Tremblay was an excellent Tiny Phil.
Yeah, it was a great episode.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds cool. I've been watching Love, the original Netflix series. I don't think I've talked about this yet on the show.
You haven't. I did.
Yeah. So I finally started watching it. And I'm really digging it so far.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't finished it yet. Most people start it and finish it in like 2 days.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through.
Okay.
Then I had work.
Oh.
So it goes.
Okay, next.
I've been watching House of Cards on Netflix. The new season just came out not too long ago, and it's so good.
I've heard that it's really good. I heard it's like it redeems the horrible season 3.
Season 3, yeah, it was so bad, but
Yeah.
they've kicked it right off and gotten right back into the action, and of course there's actual subterfuge going on all the time now.
Cool.
And as far as other things, I also been playing a lot of Android Netrunner, which is a LCG by Fantasy Flight Games.
Oh, nice.
So there's a bunch of events coming up for that too, so I've been practicing for that.
Cool.
I've been working for the past 9 days straight, and so I haven't consumed too much media. I did watch the most recent 2 episodes of Legends of Tomorrow,
Oh.
and I really enjoyed the epised with Oliver in it and how they made him look.
I'm not current, so
I
I'm
love
about to
that
take
one.
off my headphones.
We don't have to, but I agree
I won't
with you
talk
on that
about
one.
the details, but just...
They did a very good homage to some comic books.
Yeah, very good. And
He has
just
the,
the way they,
right?
Yeah.
he has got the right facial hair and everything, and it's just like the aging on him was a little off, but
Right.
the facial hair and everything was the best part. I don't know why. I mean, you loved it too. The
I loved it too.
representation.
I've been waiting the whole
since
Arrow started to see him with like the classic Green Arrow goatee.
He looked great.
To look like Oliver Queen.
He
finally.
looked
Yeah.
almost exactly like
it's-
he does in the comic book.
Oh, he did. It's probably fake, but it's a real shame he doesn't have that going.
Was it CG? Was it CG hair?
No.
No, it was not CG hair. But there was just a lot of fun little things in that episode, like with Dingle's son and stuff.
Yep.
And it's just great. If you haven't been watching Legends of Tomorrow, yes, it looks hokey and everything, but it's still
but
really
it's fun.
good. And with the hokiness, it's so much fun.
It's Saturday morning cartoons.
Cheese makes for the best media, just like it makes the best food.
Right on.
I am, I think, 3 episodes into Vikings. I've never watched a History Channel
Yeah,
show
it's History
before.
Channel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome and exactly what I expected. So
I-
I'm very pleased with it.
I've heard it's really good, but I never, for some reason, just never watched it.
Yeah, I didn't quite trust History Channel to do a good job with a show like
That's
that.
why
Yeah.
we never
Especially,
started.
I feel like Game of Thrones sets the bar really, really high for those kind of types of shows. But yeah, it definitely holds its own, and I'm excited to continue watching it.
Yeah, that was like the History Channel's comeback to Game of Thrones, wasn't it? We have Vikings on
It's
the
not-
History Channel.
Not real history anymore, but they did exist.
It's better than Pawn Stars.
They play history
But
as much
is
as
it
MTV
better
plays
than-
music.
But is it
Pawn
better than
Stars was
Ancient
on-
Aliens, you
Yeah.
guys?
I thought Pawn Stars
is
was on
anything?
Discovery. It
No.
was on History?
No, it doesn't have that much class to be on Discovery.
Real quick before we start, Ben, do you want to plug your YouTube channel? You mentioned Netrunner, but you didn't talk about the video series you do.
Oh, sure, yeah. I also have a YouTube channel under T3 Productions. I cast and record and do graphics for not live games, but for games in Netrunner and put it out for the community, and it's super fun. It's really, check it out.
Awesome. And then, Sam, you have your own podcast now, right?
Oh, I do, yeah. The first
awesome.
episode came out, well, not by the time you hear this today, but I am now doing Superhero Sampler with former After the Hype guest Elliot Campos. We talk about superhero shows, and it's great. And I also have a regular column at Film Takeout if you want to hear about chick flicks.
Awesome.
What's it
They're
called?
good.
Oh, it's called Fear the Chick Flick.
There it is.
It is most excellent.
It is.
I also have a podcast myself, Cerebral Static, which is a competitive podcast just where we evaluate meta. It's myself and Darren Eskandari, who's another big geek guy in both Netrunner, and he also writes for RPGs and playtests a lot of games as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, we get into it a little bit more in that.
But all right, so we're going to get started on today's episode. Today we are doing last October is when this thing came out, right? Yeah, October 16th. What some would argue, both for and against, as either the best or worst movie of last year, which is kind of fun because I like seeing the comparison here. Crimson Peak, Guillermo Del Toro's movie. Well, I don't know what else to call it. So it cost $55 million, and it full-blown flopped in the American box office, made $31 million, which is a outright shame. And then it ended up making 74 worldwide, so at least it made its money back. But you can see why things kind of shook up in the Del Toro world as far as making the next movie.
It also got censored in China. The shit's hardcore.
Oh, of course it did.
China.
Ghosts and shit always get censored in China.
So we're going to move into the review for today, and as if you cannot tell from our introduction, our co-host John Hardesty is not able to be here today, but he was able to write us a review. So we're going to go with that really quick. Here we go. In honor of such a lavish and well-produced film, I'm going to give a short bullet point style review. Point 1, beautiful set design and art direction. Like damn, girl. That's most definitely the guy from Pacific Rim. And so is that guy. Love the oozing walls and sinking building. It's nice to watch Tom Hiddleston in a film. We should see more of that. Jessica Chastain is hardcore. She was way scarier than any of the apparitions. This thing is more gothic than horror, and I'm absolutely fine with that. Is this Guillermo del Toro's version of Cruel Intentions? Wish I hadn't predicted all of the plot turns in the first 30 minutes. Ultimately, I liked more the movie than I disliked it. And then ending is, this movie needs to be on a big screen with a great sound system. Which is really the biggest one out of all this that I agree with. Because having seen it in the IMAX theater when it first came out compared to my home theater, there's something a little bit lost in there. But we can talk about that.
When you turn the movie off and start fidgeting with our speakers.
Yeah. When I realized that it was only coming out in stereo, I'm like, no, I can't stand for this. We're flipping this over to 7.1.
Wow.
And then
It's
I
hardcore.
did. Yeah. It was important to me. Okay, so for the breakdown today, we are going to have Sam.
Oh, cool.
You ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. And go.
Okay, a writer named Edith falls for a guy named Thomas. He takes her away to England after his sister murders her father, and they get married, and she lives in a decrepit house where the walls ooze and the house breathes. His sister is crazy because it turns out that they've been boning this whole time, so she's super jealous of Edith, who is the first non-sister person to bone Tom Hiddleston, even though he's had like a million wives before this because he's been killing all of them to get their money. So he tries to kill Edith, and she stops him, and the dog helps, and that's the end.
Okay.
And don't forget there are ghosts.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not going to be
The ghosts are not the point.
I know. They said that so
They
many
made that
times.
very
So many
clear.
times.
Okay, so now that we're done with that, I honestly think the best place to start with this movie is going to be where the general audience started with this movie, which is the marketing, which I know is a very strange place to start, but I think it's important because it, I think, destroyed the entire movie.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Yeah, it was so horribly done, but I'll let you take it away.
From what I remember, it was marketed as such like this big horror movie. Like it was gonna just absolutely like supposed to be like the next one of those found footage horror movies or something like that. But it went completely differently from when you expect right off the bat. Like it's way narrative. It's beautiful is really what really surprised me. But I feel like it was more focused on like a psychological, or tried to take that aspect more like a Shutter Island or something like that, instead of going with like a traditional, or I guess traditional horror approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I made the comment to Chewie when we were watching it today. Much like The Martian is a comedy, this is a horror film. Like, it's just not the same thing. Like, yes, you could call it a horror film because it uses like the horror framing device to tell a drama story. But like, The Martian's not a comedy, and it won Best Comedy. But it was a serious movie with some funny bits. This is a serious movie with some horror bits, but it's by no means a horror film.
No, it's a romance. It was
Yeah.
so misleading because it's definitely a movie whose target audience should have been adult women.
Yep.
Yeah,
And it was marketed like a horror film to teenagers.
What nudity did it have? Tom Hiddleston's butt.
Oh.
it was a good butt.
See?
I mean,
Marketing
I
was all
actively
wrong.
complained about the excessive amount of clothing during that sex scene to Brian. I'm like,
It was kind of like
my God,
it was
her
kind of
dress
fetishy
hurdles?
hot though.
Oh yeah.
Would be in that situation.
I mean, it was really just more so like they wanted a bow now.
Yeah.
Like taking all that stuff off would have taken time.
That's
Whereas they could
true.
just move shit to the side and make it happen, and then they did.
Well, it was like 3 months into the relationship before that
Yeah.
ever happened too, and they were married before that too, right?
Well, I mean, he was supposed
Yeah.
to kill her, so they weren't supposed to ever bang, but he
Right.
just kept not killing her.
Whoops,
Like,
there was
well,
a storm.
yeah.
oh,
do this.
I like this one. I
Uh,
can understand why they did the marketing the way they did a little bit, just because trying to market a gothic romance to a mass audience, you can just see the eye rolls on like
yeah,
most parents'
absolutely.
faces going, "Oh, the like
Well, how did
hot topic
Twilight
crowd's
did it.
totally gonna go."
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, it's not that sort of thing. It's
Right.
not just a hip put on mascara movie. It's a gothic, like a true gothic romance, and that's actually quite a niche genre that is hard to market to just general people.
Maybe
Yeah.
they got it right then by marketing as a horror movie.
Yeah, it's just
Well, I mean, I would agree if they made money off of it, but
Yeah.
by the first, I mean, it's really like their opening weekend was, you could guess probably like between like 15 million, 10 and 15, and if that audience had been like, it's great, you need to see it. It's not a horror film, but it's still great. But the audience that went wanted to see a horror film, and they just went, well, I was never scared.
it's
Yeah,
the
that's
same
true.
problem that Drive had, where they advertised that movie as like this big like race cars film.
It's not
And
Fast
then-
and the Furious.
Yeah, and then people just came out angry, like, "Oh, that's not what I wanted."
Yeah, and
It's a big studio not knowing what to do if they feel that half of their target audience, that men aren't going to see a gothic romance / gothic horror movie.
yeah, and it's that risk number now. Like back in the 90s, it was 20 million. Like the $20 million movie was that one that's like, I don't know if we should do it or not, because you spend enough to where it's going to hurt your budget, and you might not see the return. Now that number is 50, and this one's 55. It is like that example of, do we take a risk or not? And they did, and it totally failed.
I think too the closest big studio comparison they had was Sleepy Hollow, which
love
was
that.
a little bit more horror, but
Yeah.
it's still a gothic romance in its
Totally.
heart.
And it had a little bit more action to it, which that one
Yes.
got a lot more butts and seats.
And bigger
when,
stars.
when really this was probably closer to Cary Fukunaga's Jane Eyre.
All right, well, let's move on to the other thing that we keep kind of mentioning throughout all of this, which is just the general look of the movie, which I think is probably what keeps most people interested in it.
Yeah.
Even
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
not into the story, you're into that.
Yeah.
How was this not nominated for Oscars for set design and costume
yeah,
design?
No
I
idea.
was
Yeah.
ranting and raving about it so much.
I
when-
can't even. Like,
Those
if-
are fucking gorgeous. Like, there's parts of it when you like something so much you just want to burn it. Like, I'm watching them wear these. I'm like, I'm so frustrated that I don't have that. I just want to rip it off you.
It's like when you see a puppy and you just want to like bite it. You're like,
yeah, it's just that good.
You guys are so violent with the things you love.
cute rage is a real thing. Look it up.
It is. In particular, the blue and black with the leaves on her chest dress. For the sister, I don't remember her name in the movie, but it was just
Jessica Chastain.
Jessica Chastain, so stunningly beautiful. And the way they just tailored the dresses to her character. Even the first time we see her, we don't see her face, but we see her in a red dress that specifically has weaving going down her spine, which makes her look evil. That's her first glimpse into her character.
The best part is that evil, it's hearts. That ridge is made
Oh, it
of
was
hearts.
hearts? Yeah,
it's heart
it's
cutouts,
so
but she still is
amazing.
so sinister, and you
Yeah.
see where like
Because-
it's just the worst part of love, which is what. Oh,
all of her
Yeah.
craziness is driven by her love, and
Yeah.
it's so like
It's so
sinister
perfect.
in its purity.
And even that, like, even starting from that idea and that dress, that red, that color was such a symbol throughout the movie, and it moved from item to item. And before, like, that was one of the things that I thought was really stunning, was the color palette and the way that the color was used, especially in the backdrop and in the actual architecture of the buildings themselves. But they created moods and feelings just with like simple little things. So even though you might see an object for like 2 frames or a little bit, or they'll cut away or whatever, it like brings back what this was in the beginning and like leads to it. It's even more like I guess kind of like Spielberg would do do that, right? Like he would drop all these little bits and pieces into movies, and then even though they don't might not make a lot of sense at the time, like at the end of the movie you see him out and you see these themes through, and it's part of the whole aesthetic to the film.
Yeah.
My only complaint with that is the use of the color red in the movie. Because I get like the whole idea. If you watch it behind the scenes and stuff, he's like some of the ghosts are red. If their body was thrown in like the clay pits in the bottom after they're dead, now they're a red ghost. So the red was supposed to be super important. So it's either supposed to be blood, clay, or ghost. And then every now and then they let that go. Like the beginning when you first see Jessica Chastain in the red dress, it's like I really wish they just kind of stuck to if it's red, it has something to do with the clay or death. And then I mean I guess it could because she did
causer of death,
which is true. And I guess it kind of helps that kind of weave, but that one feels more like an oversight of just, well, we want her in a red dress and it works, but that one just didn't feel like it tied in as much.
Red is foundational.
Okay.
In the movie, it's the shaky foundation. The clay is a bad foundation for the house. Her love is a bad foundation for their relationship.
It's a horrible one.
Yeah. And the clay pits and everything sinks, which is why some of the ghosts were red. They got sucked up into the foundation.
Right.
And I think that it more than, I mean, obviously it points directly to the clay or the blood, but more than that, it's a bad foundation.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
that's how I took it. It's
no,
kinda
that
like
makes
how
sense. I wish they'd said that in the behind the scenes thing, because that makes more sense than what he said of just red important.
Yeah, 'cause there's the foundation, and then what's really cool is to juxtapose that are the butterfly motif running through the butterfly versus moth,
Yep.
and how Edith is allegedly a delicate butterfly, but you see her as her wings get bigger. And in that final scene when they're both running around with those big billowy clothes fighting one another, you see how she kind of overpowers her.
Yeah, I still don't know how they didn't trip in that. Like, I want to know how many like outtakes there
Oh,
are of Jessica
God. Her
Chastain just
running down
flying
the
down the
stairs.
steps. Just, I got her. Ah!
I
Thank God these knives aren't real.
I love too, even the little dog. It's a papillon because it has the butterfly ears.
Yeah.
No, I hate that dog.
Well, so did Jessica Chastain. She
I,
killed
I,
it.
I just love the beginning of
rage.
just like when it shows up. Wow, why isn't that thing dead?
No, the whole time I was like, oh, that thing is totally the first thing that's gonna die.
Oh God! And then when like the whole like mystery finally comes down, Jessica's just like, oh, I'm gonna go choke that dog. She's so happy to kill it.
It's out of the bag. Let's kill the dog.
Okay, let's. Is there anything else people want to say about the look of this thing? We've talked set, costumes, color.
How about the special effects? I'll be honest.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of I'm always taken out by digital ghosts. Like
These weren't digital.
They were a
Really?
combination.
Those are all real.
Well, they were a
In what way?
combination.
The ghosts, everything that you see like framing wise, so the ribs, faces, all that sort of stuff
Right.
was real on set.
right. Okay.
And then they just did special effects around it to make
Wow.
it look a little bit more
That
billowy
ruined
and
it.
fake.
Oh, no way.
like the
It was.
the blood
Yeah.
red
It was,
stuff.
that's the guy that was telling you about that was in all of his
Yeah.
movies.
It's also the guy. There's a Spanish actor though, the one that was the mama, the mom and mama. It's different than Doug Jones.
I was just in the special features they showed Doug
Yeah,
Jones.
I mean,
Well, yeah, but I don't think it was
Guillermo
just the
always-
one guy.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
Well-
I agree. Like
they
the
look
digital.
too smooth to me. Anyway,
See, they didn't to me. I liked the mix.
maybe it was a theater thing.
That could be, yeah. Because the mix of it for me, like that's my favorite thing about Del Toro, and probably will be forever. Is I love
Right.
that he is a guy who knows that you need both practical and special to
Yeah,
make it work.
I usually do too.
But then what didn't work for you in this one? They just didn't.
I don't
look-
know. They just didn't look real to me. They didn't look scary. They didn't look like threatening to her in any way. And it was also
they
the way
actually
that it was.
they weren't threatening to her.
No,
at
I
all.
know. So they didn't really. I wish they would have made it seem that way in the beginning, because it was clear that maybe it's just that I knew what the movie was about. That I knew going in that it's like, oh, these are helpful ghosts, and they're gonna get her to solve the mystery. Whereas I wanted the ghost to be the threat in the beginning of the film, just like. I mean, Del Toro tried really, really hard to make The Shining with this, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think in that movie you were way more afraid of the ghosts and the spirits in the house.
Then what? I would actually say I was more afraid of the two
Jessica Chastain and Tom Hiddleston.
yeah, those two.
Right,
I
that's
was
what I'm saying. I was more afraid of the spirits in The Shining for the first half of the movie than
Oh.
Jack Nicholson.
Oh, so you're kind of saying like you
I
wish
see.
there was more of like a rug pull of like the enemies
Yeah.
are the people, not the ghosts.
Yeah.
See that like for me, I don't. Maybe it is because I knew I could kind of figure it out just by the very little bit of the trailers I'd seen who the actual villain was going to be. That I kind of
Right.
went expecting that, so I was never really afraid of the ghost. But it doesn't
Right.
really bother me either. Like
I
I'm
see.
kind of okay with.
It also
But they tried to
felt
make
like-
them scary. So either make them like more helpful, like what was that movie with Nicole Kidman? The
Oh,
Others?
the others.
Where the ghosts like had jump scares, but they weren't like really horrifying looking ghosts like in this movie. And that's totally a Del Toro thing. Like he makes horrific looking things that aren't supposed to horrify almost.
I think it's also a very non-American conception of ghosts because we either view them as scary or Casper. But and I don't know a lot about like Mexican ghosts, I guess, but I know a lot about like
whatever a Mexican ghost is.
Well, I don't know if that's like a thing. I don't want people to be like,
right.
"This Mitchell's racist."
The
but
Mexican like mythology of spirits and stuff.
yeah, but I do know in like Japan and stuff, and what you see in like Hayao Miyazaki's works is that ghosts can be scary or neutral, but we'd perceive them as scary because of how they look when their behavior is indicative of something else. And I just feel like maybe that was lost in translation.
I'm not sure if it was a translation thing. Again, just basing on like the very few behind the scenes things I watched, they are really just going for something new.
Okay.
They just wanted a different type of ghost than everything else we've seen before. So they're trying to it wasn't like zombie-esque, but they wanted it to look human, but definitely no longer human. So that's why you saw like the ribs and like the deformed breasts and all that sort of stuff. Like they wanted
the
to
fingers worked
model
really
baby.
well.
Yeah.
Like anytime it's in shadow, I really liked it. But then just the red, the smoothness. It was the blood or the clay or whatever that they kind of painted them over with that bothered me the most.
The very specific look he was going for is a body that wasn't allowed to properly decompose, like a mummy.
Oh, that works.
So that's why you'd have the smooth characteristics where it started to dishevel, but it's just kind of like sucking back into itself without losing its original form.
Which
like
explains
dehydration.
Which would explain why Tom Hiddleston just looks like Tom Hiddleston.
Right.
Yeah.
That didn't work for me at the end, though, because Tom Hiddleston had just died, and all of a sudden he was all zombified and everything. It looked like his skin was cracked, and he had the big circles under his eyes.
Well, his death was completely different than everybody else's in the film. His death wasn't caused by anger or straight up, like, sinister murder. His death was a self-sacrifice, and then he was also murdered by the one who loved him the most. That's why he's white, why he's different, because he was kind of like, he's almost the same level of innocence as she is, except he's at fault at the same time.
But then the mom's black.
She died. They specified how
Of
she
cholera,
died.
right?
They specified that her skin basically turned black as she died.
Oh,
from
okay, yeah, then that
rotting.
makes sense.
So their representation post-death is very much tied to their death.
Did he actually kill anybody?
No.
Yeah, I don't think he ever killed anybody.
The first time he even committed violence was against
the doctor, right?
the doctor, and it was still an act of violence with goodness,
Right.
Because he did it with purpose to not kill him. So in
That
a
was my
way, his
favorite.
character,
Yeah, I like that a lot.
His character is so beautifully like pure and flawed at the same time. It's one of the reasons I love this film.
Well, that's actually a good point. Let's start talking about Tom Hiddleston. That's a good transition into it because I think he's the second best person in this movie. We'll get into the best in a moment.
The dog.
Yep, that's it.
The dog just wanted to play ball.
You did with a ghost. Oh, it makes sense. This is just now dawning on me. The ghost was the dog's owner. I don't know why that took me till right now. Hello. But no. So Tom Hiddleston, we don't really, as like a general movie going audience, you don't really get to see him in much anything else. Like he did. It was a movie you recommended to me. Fuck, what was it?
Only Lovers
Thor.
Left
Yes,
Alive.
that one. Yeah. So some people
good.
saw that one,
Watched
but I still haven't watched it.
Oh, because I haven't watched it either.
Yeah,
I
no.
was mad
She
at
recommended it to me. I just haven't seen it yet. But there's that one. But other than that, if you don't watch Thor, I mean, that's really most people's intro to him. So it's really good seeing him in something that proves that he is so much better than just the Marvel machine. Which nothing against the Marvel machine. I love the Marvel movies, but I like seeing him like really stretch his legs and do something cool, which this clearly was.
I like watching him dance on talk shows.
That too.
Yes, there's also that.
I really did. I do love that the big reveal at the end, the big plot twist for me was that he really did love Edith. I thought that was so
Yeah. It
was
wonderful. It was such a triumphant, emotional moment when you realize that for all of his really vile faults, he really did love her in his own, as much as he was capable. I thought, I know a lot of people were expecting jump scares and stuff, but for me, that emotional payoff, that emotional plot twist, that he was as good as you wanted him to be, was really satisfying.
It's like she is his first experience of actual love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the way they describe his parents, there wasn't any love there. And the love he has with his sister kind of feels like imposed upon, where his sister just keeps saying, we're in love, we're in love, we're in love. And he's like,
How
you must
weird.
be right. But this is time he's actually like, oh, this is how it's supposed to feel. I've been doing terrible things my whole life.
If you flip-flop genders, this would just be like a woman in peril and an emotion. It'd be a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
He's been in
Yeah.
an abusive
Right.
relationship his whole life.
That's what makes him such a pure character, and he's so sad.
Now, when did you guys realize that he was actually in love with, forgetting her name now, Edith?
It was somewhat early on, actually.
I know my exact
Really?
moment.
Early on. You knew early on. Come on.
No, it's just when
There is a point.
I'm trying to
where-
remember.
For me, the point is when the drill finally starts working. And he's like, oh, I can't wait for Edith to see this. And just the
Right.
look on Jessica Chastain's face. She's like, what? No, we're doing this. What do you give a shit? We're going to kill her in a day anyways. What the fuck do you care about her? And like that look is like perfect.
Yeah. Lucille told it all.
Yeah.
Jessica Chastain's character.
Yeah, which is, if we have nothing else to say about Tom Hiddleston, that's who I was going to talk about, who I think is the strongest person in this movie.
Yeah, she's great.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
She's easily one of the best actresses working today. She's a reason for me to go see movies. She's so fucking good. And this movie, it's another one of those things where I don't know if it's, I don't know how the Oscars work if you own a studio. I don't know if it's something where like you can only submit so many movies or if you have to choose which ones you want to put your money behind to actually back. But clearly Universal and Legendary didn't really back this one because the fact that she was nominated for fuck all still kind of blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because
It's
she was
madness.
so good in
That
this
whole movie played across her face like she's Mads Mikkelsen in Hannibal.
Which coming from you is quite a compliment.
Yeah.
I think her and Hannibal would have an amazing dinner party.
Don't tempt me. I've never
Would you
gotten
like
into
some tea?
I've never been into fan fiction before, but you might have just sold me.
No, there's something. It was a moment that CHEWIE mentioned when we were watching the movie earlier today. That it's like for me, I think it's the strongest scene in the movie, and it's easily her strongest scene. But the moment they come back from the post office after being there for the night, and just it's all over her face. That entire scene is just like she's just like ready to explode, and then she does for half a second, and then just watching her like gain her composure is just such a it's a joy to watch. It's horrible and terrifying, but it's awesome.
I love the moment when she walks into them while they're in his workshop too, with the tea, and just the look that she and Tom Hiddleston have a whole horrifying conversation while Mia Wasikowska pours herself some tea, and it's just like, oh my goodness, it's wonderful.
I love every scene with Jessica Chastain and the tea because it's always such a great like I'm killing you, and she's just so happy about it every time. Like when she gets so mad at her after the post office, and she's just like, "I'll make you some tea." Yeah, it's such a great like I'm killing you.
Specifically, the sequence after she collapses and wakes up in the bed, and she starts rejecting the tea, but then she starts feeding her the porridge. The sound design for me with her action of doing that and grinding the spoon on the bowl,
so good.
and then shoving it into her mouth because you get the click from her teeth each time too.
Oh, I hate it! I hate it! I hate it! I hate it!
And it's so violent and visceral and emotional. Like the film, you guys complain about the costume design or Jessica Chastain not getting nominated for an Oscar, sound design not getting nominated. It's like there's so much pain for this film because it's so like attention to detail.
They literally
was extreme.
They invented sounds for a drill that probably doesn't exist in real
Yeah.
life. It's amazing.
And it sounded real and grounded, not like a transformer or something.
Yeah, it wasn't like Optimus Prime digging clay out of the ground. Sam, you need this. I'd watch that.
Yeah.
All right, so do we want to talk about Mia? Is there anything
She's good.
Is there anything to say about poor Mia?
She's really good when she figures out what's going on and starts fighting back. Those are the scenes I really love.
She's great. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. She's great as soon as she's no longer something that the plot is happening to.
Yeah.
Because that is first 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah.
You see a glimpse of it though in the sex scene.
Yeah,
She's kind of the one that takes charge, since at that point he's never boned anyone but his sister.
Or done anything without his sister's approval.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty. It's a nice subtle moment where you kind of get a preview of what's to come.
And the first moment you have with her showing her strength is against like the Cinderella girls at the very beginning when they're going to the ball, and they call her a spinster, and she just has that wonderful quib about how I don't want to die. I'm not going to die a spinster. I'm going to die a widow. Or like I'd rather be Mary Shelley than Jane Austen. It's great. Just like she's immediately showed she's got bite, she's got wit, which is honestly one of the reasons that Tom Hiddleston's character falls in love with her.
Yeah, like legitimately falls in love with her and doesn't want to just use her for her money.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like about her character, which is not usually done in films a lot anymore, she's got like dreams and aspirations and that sort of stuff. She wants to be a writer. And I love that is like a through line of the film. Is that she wants to be a writer and she wants to write a ghost story, but not a love story. Then she finds herself in a love story that happens to have ghosts, and it's this like really great framing device, and it's awesome.
It was.
But the one thing that they do in the movie that I wish more movies would have the guts to do is that she's not very good.
Right.
Like they make it kind of apparent that as much as she wants to be a writer, she's okay.
Yeah.
She's fine. She's not gonna go like be a huge star and like that. And I kind of like that. It gets like it gives her more of like a real character. She feels more like three-dimensional, like an actual tangible being, as opposed to just, as I said earlier, somebody who the plot happens to.
It's even rare that you get to see a woman be mediocre in a movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of special.
Well, especially this case with all your like Katniss Everdeen's and all that sort of stuff, where like you're just so special and everyone loves you, and she's good. She's not great. She's never going to be the greatest writer ever, but she can keep trying.
But damn it,
Yeah.
you want her to work for a newspaper, because
Yeah.
a lot of shitty writers work for newspapers.
She'll finally have the good story to tell now, and she'll get her big break based on this horrible thing happening to her.
She can write one book.
Yeah.
And when Jessica Chastain is essentially killing her at the very end, she even uses that against her, like as a little way to kill her emotionally, as she's talking to her about how she's going to die while burning her pages. And you didn't have save buttons back then, so she's really getting rid of it, like
Oh, you didn't
burning
back
it
that
right
up
in
on
front
any
of
hard
her.
drives.
It's all in here.
It's like it's just there's so many like details like that just make it so much more evil. Like if you don't think that there's horror in this film, as an artist or a writer, that's horrifying.
It really is.
The horror
Coming
is
from-
in the
You're
people.
never going to get this back.
That is I've gone through that. It's not good. Not having somebody like torture me to death and
Your
burn my
sister
stuff in
that
front
you
of
were
me.
sleeping with
Yeah.
burned your papers.
Yeah, I've gone through a very small portion of this, not that. All right, well let's
Can we talk about Charlie Hunnam? Because it's
That's
the
right.
best. It's the best performance of his career, which isn't saying much, but it happened, and we should
Ouch.
praise him for it.
Really? Am I the only one that didn't enjoy? I only enjoyed Tom Hiddleston's performance in this, and the dog.
Oh, you didn't like
Everyone
Jessica
else,
Chastain?
the accents were awful and distracting the entire time. He was the only one doing his natural accent, though, which may be a part of it. But I didn't
No,
know.
he's British in real life.
Yeah, he's the only one that's actually speaking
In
with
his
his natural
natural
accent, and I don't know.
She's talking about Tom
They're four
Hiddleston.
Oh,
good
'cause I was
actors,
talking about Charles-
and I didn't enjoy any of their performances. They were awful.
Awful's a strong word.
Yeah,
I thought
it is.
Jessica Chastain was amazing in
I
this.
thought it was too heavy-handed.
But
I
that's
think
what
this
it's.
is,
That- yeah,
that's
that's
what
what
a
it's supposed
gothic romance is.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, it's-
dramatic and heavy-handed.
I disagree. No, like the one thing that I loved about the movie was the production design, but when I was watching it in theaters, people were laughing as things were happening in the movie. Jessica Chastain had like several really good moments, but other than that, I felt like she showed her hand the entire time, and I get that you're supposed to see all the hints, and you're supposed to see, I guess, the duality of her character and the madness that's barely, like, I guess, simmering underneath. She has to keep it under control the entire time, but I just didn't. I thought it was silly.
There was nothing that surprised me, and I think that's the issue that I have with the movie, is that nothing like was like, oh man, I didn't see that one coming, or like, oh, that came out of nowhere, like, because of the acting was so like big in parts, and like that was kind of the movie, but it didn't make me question what was happening much more than on the surface. You know what I mean? Like, it was more okay, like, well, what is those two relationships? Like, there's some weird creepy thing happening somehow.
I mean, we all knew they were sleeping together rather early on.
Right.
And
Sure,
normally
sure.
that really does piss me off in films. I'm not really sure why this one was an exception, because even though I did kind of guess the plot points, I just enjoyed the ride.
Well,
while
I
I
mean,
was
yeah, I
watching
mean
it.
that brings up the larger question of this film in general. If you can figure out, like, so say that I know the ending of Civil War because I've read comic books. Will that still make me not enjoy the film? Because I mean, I've never seen it done in this way. So if I'm watching Crimson Peak and I know that he's probably been married before, he's probably killed a bunch of his wives, he's only in for money, he's banging his sister, I'm still. Does that ruin the movie for me, or can I just enjoy the ride?
Sometimes it does, but
Right.
I didn't feel it with this one.
It's an individual thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a film by film basis, but for me, like this one, like I could see it all coming, but I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to see this world. I like the world they've built, and I like everybody in it.
It would be great if they could have nailed both.
For me, like I talked about earlier, they did, because the emotional journey,
Right.
the twist that he actually
strong
did
point.
love her, for me was enough. I go to movies, I don't really give a shit about the plot, which sounds really weird unless it's a really well plotted mystery, but I'd rather see characters existing in a world in an emotionally real way.
Well,
and for me, Crimson
the
Peak
emotional journey is a
delivered-
plot too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But-
you're meaning over like the actual real life events that are happening.
Yeah.
You prefer watching the
I'd
characters
rather,
grow.
I'd rather find some sort of like emotional honesty than I would like plot
That's fair.
machinations. And
And
for me,
that
Crimson
actually
Peak
did-
delivered that in spades.
Absolutely, it did in several ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you more for this one specifically. Like, I think it probably is more on a film by film basis. But yeah, I mean, you're kind of right on. Like it's 2016. Like, what film plots haven't we seen at this point?
Yeah.
Like, we've seen pretty much everything. Like, and that's not to fault films in general, but we've seen it. So at this point, what are we watching it for? And it'd be like, for this one, a gothic horror film has been done time and time and time and time again, all the way back to the 30s. So why am I watching this one? It's because I like these characters. But now for somebody like Danielle, so you didn't like the performances, or so just maybe you didn't like the movie, or what was it?
I hated the movie when I first saw it.
Okay.
And then a big thing for me, it sounds silly. It's one of the points that you made at the beginning. Watching it on the big screen was absolutely awful. Everything
Really?
was so crisp. I didn't feel like it fit with the genre. Everything was so crystal clear, and I'm like, this doesn't look period whatsoever. And I love gothic horror, gothic literature. One of my favorite books, movies is Wuthering Heights. So I love like the tormented
Totally.
Heathcliff character, and you get a little bit of that. Tom Hiddleston obviously has redeeming qualities in this. I absolutely wanted to see something like that with this film, but I liked it a lot more the second time I watched it when I rented it and chose standard definition instead of high definition on my teeny tiny TV.
I could see
loved
that.
it.
It's
Where
like
it added a little bit of grade, and it seemed to fit a lot more with whatever Guillermo was trying to do.
Especially the yellow digital shooting at the beginning. It was really jarring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was odd. It was like when I saw The Hobbit and everyone was going on about high frame rate, and it just took me out of the movie, and it looked like a stage play, and I was like, that's not what I came to see. I came to see something very cinematic.
It looked like a freaking episode of Wishbone.
Yeah,
Also, if you were in a theater with people laughing, that would just set a terrible tone for a lot of it as well.
I would have walked out. That'd be one of the few things that if there's one person laughing, I'd yell at them. If it's a whole theater laughing, it's like, well, this is the wrong crowd for me.
There was one couple behind me talking the whole time, and first I told them to shut up, and they did not listen, and I heard that they were talking in Spanish, so I yelled at them to shut up in Spanish, and they left. And I was like, yeah. I was like so pleased with myself. It was so embarrassing.
The first time I watched this film, and I did feel like Jessica Chastain's character was heavy-handed, just a little bit, like the way you said it. But there was a part of me that just like, well, she knows it too, Mia. Like, she definitely is not feeling too, like, sistery with her. But she just thinks Tom Hiddleston's so hot, she's going to deal with it. Like, that's just kind of the feeling I had. It'd be like, everyone knew she was sketchy.
I love bitchy junior high girl passive-aggressive relationships, too, so much.
I'm actually super interested because you three have seen it before, so you've seen it at least twice, and
Right.
it seems like your opinions at least twice, but it seems like your opinions between the two viewings are very different. So, I mean, like, that in itself is kind of interesting to me, because I'm going into this with just one viewing, 3 hours ago. So, it's kind of like, it's weird. It's really cool to see the difference there.
Well, for me, and this will go back to our very first argument with this. I blame the marketing. I blame like them setting your mind fucking you into thinking this is what this movie is going to be, and then getting something completely different. It's like I sat down for a steak and they handed me a chicken sandwich.
For me, I just kind of ignored the trailers. This is one of the things I actually actively avoided. I didn't watch the
remember you
trailer. I watched it
running out.
maybe once. I just looked at the posters, and I got the feeling from the posters was what the main reason I wanted to see this film is. I got darkness with beauty, and I love insects, and each one of the posters had a different insect representing the character on top of it. Why is that funny?
Because this movie is about another thing that begins with the term incest.
Yes. I love
just shared a
incest.
look.
But so then for me, just the core like emotion I was getting from the posters really worked well when I actually saw the film. So I'm very happy that I avoided the trailers and the advertisements, because it was one of the movies that I was just, I'd be watching Hulu and that would come up in the commercials things, I would just leave the room and turn it on mute. I'd be like, no, I'm not going to fucking ruin anything. Stop it, Hulu.
Now, Ben, had you seen all the trailers and all that sort of stuff?
Not really. I don't have cable, so I usually watch Netflix as my main source of media. So I really haven't seen a lot of trailers for anything.
So you went into this
movie.
pretty blank as well.
Pretty blank, yeah.
Okay, so I'm wondering if maybe because like Danielle and I saw everything and we went into it, it's kind of jarring to see one then the other. Because I'll tell you, on my first watch of it, I loved it, but it was still just like I loved it, and I loved it, but it's like I loved it, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be. I loved it, but this could have been better. The second time, the butt was just completely gone.
Except for Tom Hiddleston's butt.
That was a good butt. Half butt, really. I mean, he's still kind of
wasn't
pants
full
on
butt.
there.
Yeah.
You
Not
gotta
full butt.
love.
You guys, how exciting is
Hiddleston.
High Rise gonna be?
It's just, you gotta love it when somebody can transcend any sort of like sexual preference. It's just like, everyone wants to
Yeah.
bone
I feel
you.
like both he and Jessica Chastain do that, which is why I was like, this is incest, but I'm not that bothered.
You're like,
Oh,
watch that.
incest is wrong, but get at it, dude. You guys look great together.
It's like that guy on that viral video. Just mute it and don't pay attention that they're related. If any of you guys have watched that video, look it up.
what do we search for?
Incest.
a
It'll go
news
great. Just look it up.
News anchor won't stop talking about incest porn.
Oh God.
It is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Okay, so we've been talking for a little while on this. Is there anything else that people really want to bring up? Is there anything else important we need to stab at with this?
I actually have, like, did they specifically say that he had never had sex with any other woman but her? Because I didn't
Jessica
get that at
Chastain
all.
says that
Yeah.
that he had never slept with any of the other ones.
Right when they got back from the night in the town.
Oh,
Yeah.
See,
She
I didn't
makes
get
a
that at
point
all.
of-
It doesn't make any sense then to me.
She
Because
makes a point of checking with Edith too when they're like hanging out looking at the dirty
Oh,
books.
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I know.
You guys didn't do this, right?
Yeah.
Now that you have...
He was
well,
very
we did
respectable on the train.
of her mourning period.
Yeah. And one of his other wives was paralyzed, so he could have just said that they just can't have sex. The other ones, I don't know.
That's ableist, Chewie.
But what
Yeah,
was the
but
head
back
for?
then, definitely, they would say something like that.
Why was Jessica Chastain keeping hair then? What was that for? Like,
That's a serial killer.
but it was all women's hair. I
Yeah.
mean,
It
like,
was all the other wives that she's
Right.
killed. These are all the...
She's making dolls of it or whatever.
Yeah, it's mostly
She's a
Okay,
psychopath.
It's
Well,
trophies.
all right, that's
It's
fair.
these
I
are the
get-
women who tried to bang my brother instead of me, and then I
Well,
killed
the first
them.
one
It's
was the
trophies.
mother's hair. Because
I
there
did
was
for-
4 locks of hair. The first one was white, and then the other ones for the other 3 wives.
I
Okay.
for sure thought they were summoning demons with all that shit. They were gonna they had get her to sign the paper, do some ritual, cut off some hair,
No.
burn it in a fire. The thing rises
I
from.
mean,
the
if you watch Law and
bottom
Order,
of
you
the
know
pits
that
and-
murderers, serial killers, always keep a trinket, and her
Or
trinket was
Dexter.
hair.
Guillermo Del
Dexter.
Toro,
Yeah.
a Guillermo Del Toro created clay demon though would be so cool.
right.
yeah.
Oh my god, if he could use Clayface in a Batman movie.
Ooh. There are a couple things that I want to talk about, or mostly I think just like 1 or 2 things that are like the little kind of problems with the movie, where a movie that's like determined to be so flawless. Chewie pointed out one thing today that's just like
It was
so
just funny.
horrible. It's just like, if you notice it, destroys a very emotional scene in the
It
movie.
really does.
What's this?
Because near the end, when all the stabbing starts happening, and Hiddleston stabs Chris, and so then Chris is laying on the ground, and they're beautifully framed in the doorway with the snow coming in and the white background.
Charlie, by the way.
What?
Right.
Charlie, not Chris.
Charlie, sorry.
I thought maybe his name was Chris in the movie.
That's
We-
what I'm
we
like,
didn't
wait,
know,
how?
didn't
She had a
know.
name?
I
Oh,
keep
no, it's Dr. Allen. Okay, no, it's Charlie.
Sorry, Charlie. And he's laying there, and he's just kind of twitching because, he's in pain.
Right.
But part of the snow blanket was stuck on his arm. So you just see, like, this red snow blanket tossing on his arm a little bit. And I'm like, you can't get rid of that.
And the problem is, like, I had never noticed this, and
Yeah.
now watching it, like,
It's
that, it
ruined.
really ruins a very emotional part of, like, get the snow blanket off of me. It's like, really,
The stabbings in general really took me out of the film. I'm like, you can't get stabbed there and keep going. No.
Yeah,
you
that
can't
was-
get
that was
stabbed
the
in
other thing I was
face.
gonna
I mean, you
get
can't
stabbed
keep
in the
running with
gut.
a broken
Actually,
foot either.
Stabbing
No.
is the easiest thing to survive because you have to be so precise when you're stabbing someone to actually kill them. Totally plausible.
No, I was fine. It was more so
Terrifies
the
me
fact
that
that
you
he
know
was
that
stabbed
next
in
to
the
you.
armpit. Like that's a problem.
That was the stabbing that bothered me because when you're stabbed and the knife or whatever you're impaled by stays in there, you're not supposed to pull it out, right? Because that's what starts the blood flow.
Right.
And he's
Well, that's
a
true.
doctor. He shouldn't have done that, right?
You're right.
Well,
He's
they
a
hadn't
bad
learned that
doctor.
yet. So
Yeah.
maybe he's the guy who learned that. He's the reason that this happens because after he
Also,
pulled it out, he's like,
he's
"Hey guys, we
really-
shouldn't do that."
Really emotional, and even no matter what, all logic and reason, when you're in an excruciating emotional moment with pain and love and violence, you're not really thinking clearly. You're just like, get it out.
I did love every time they mentioned he was the doctor. I went back to 30 Rock because he's just an eye doctor. Kind of
He is just an eye
Kind of like
doctor.
Dr. Spaceman is only a dentist. I was like, he's only an eye doctor.
He's definitely a very self-inflated eye doctor. I'm his physician. You're his eye doctor. Get out of here. It's like.
Obstetrician.
But as to something you said a long, long time ago in this episode, I do agree. I think this is the best job he's done in anything.
Yeah.
I thought he did a really good job. But I like Charlie Hunnam.
And I just
I
thought
like him, but that doesn't mean he's good at things. That's why he's
That's how
done
I
so well
feel
for himself.
about
He's like
a lot of
sweet.
people.
he
we
has no
really need to
talent.
give him a movie where he can actually use his English accent, which is doubly annoying when he's in a movie that ends up in England and he still has to pretend to be an
He
American.
has to be the American.
What happened?
Guillermo Del Toro just loves messing with people's accents because I loved that the Australians were Americans. Some of the like in Pacific Rim, he just
right.
like no one was playing their right nationality except Idris Elba because damn it, that's how you cancel the apocalypse.
All right, is there anything else anybody wants to get in here? Stab at it? Have at it?
Ooh, good one.
The whole movie was Edith's book, right?
Yeah,
because
that's
at
what
the
I
end
got.
credits it said Crimson Peak
Right.
by Edith. Okay.
Is that it?
Maybe that's why it wasn't 100% good.
She's not a very good writer.
Well, she's not the best writer. There it is.
There it is.
Plot holes aside.
Oh,
and
my
then
God.
he stabbed her, and then she stabbed him back, and then they had a conversation.
And there was a snow blanket.
The one thing, I know that there's supposed to be hints for the plot line, but each time one of these side characters would be like, "Oh, you've been married forever," or
Oh,
"Mrs.
yeah.
Whatever, we met you before," and I'm like, do none of these people remember faces?
No.
No.
Or dogs.
Like
or
with the old man, you can
Oh,
maybe be
well-
like, "Oh, he's crazy," but like the post office dudes, they don't remember what his previous wives
Well,
look like.
How come
To
she
be
didn't
fa-
open the letter either? Like, she got this letter and then hung on to it for like
Right.
6
I can't
hours.
Get, yeah, I
until
can't get
she
a
decided
text
to
message
open it.
without looking at it within like 10 seconds. And she went like 2 days.
Yeah. A letter from Italy.
Wonder
Maybe it was like a
Mr.
savoring
and
it
Mrs.
thing.
What could it mean?
All right, well, we're going to move into the end of this thing, which is going to start with quotes.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Because I don't have a real quote because I don't remember the line, and I can't find it online because it's so weird. But to me, the best twist in the film came in the moment where she walks in on Tom Hiddleston and
The hand job?
Chastain. Yep, giving him a hand job. And
Good old hand job.
she
fucking
calls him out.
awkward,
She's
too.
like, I knew you weren't brother and sister. And she's like, twist on you. We actually are.
I really wish that was the actual line.
Twist on you.
We-
It would totally ruin the scene, but it'd be awesome.
I was trying to figure out the whole time, like, what their lie was. Like, okay, they're actually married. Okay, wait, no. Their relationship, they're not brother and sister. They're lying and banging. Okay, they're brother and sister and banging.
Yeah, it's really just
All
kind
of
of.
it.
That's really just going for it. And it's like, well, do they want to be? Fuck it, just go for it. It'll be a better movie,
Yeah.
and it was.
One
All
of
right.
my favorite moments of like double meanings in the movie, because a meaning behind a meaning, which was a lot of this film actually,
Yep.
was when again after Jessica Chastain is finished feeding her the porridge that has been poisoned, and she just kind of leans into her in a slightly menacing way that's supposed to be comforting.
She's not comforting.
No, she's not comforting. She just looks at her and goes, "Very soon, you will be out of this bed."
Yeah.
And
I
I'm
love
like,
that line.
oh, she doesn't mean it in the way that you're going to get better. She means it in the way that she's going to fucking kill you.
Another moment, I wish they'd just thrown the extra line. Like, it's like, you'll be out of this bed soon. And then as she's like walking in the hallway, because you'll be dead. movie would make an excellent comedy.
We're good riff tracks movie.
Yeah.
In like 10 years.
Yeah, there you go. All right, mine is for me, it's that moment where if you're kind of like me, and I was kind of on the fence, I didn't know which side Tom Hiddleston was actually on. I knew that he probably loved her, but didn't know if he was going to end up going like, well, but it's my sister, so I'm going to end up with my sister. And it was that moment where she's like, no, you need to get your fucking hands dirty, and you're going to go kill that guy. And he walked up to him with a knife, and he's like, look, I don't remember the exact quote, as I don't have it in front of my face, but it
was, if I don't do it, she will.
Yeah, if I don't do it, she
You're
will.
A doctor. Show me.
You're a doctor. Show me where. I fucking loved that because it's such a great moment of, wow, he's going to kill him, and he's just asking like, what's the quickest way to kill him? And then the next scene is like, no, show me where to show that like you're dead. And like, that's fucking cool. I like that.
Okay, it's kind of a lame one because it was part of this big thing. So this is just kind of the end of it. But it was Lucille, the sister, husband, fuck buddy thing, and it was a monstrous love, and it makes monsters of us all. Like it was part of a neat little monologue there, and it kind of was like what she was, right? I mean, like she was so enveloped and so wrapped up with Thomas that she was a monster. I mean, like it was, and she gave birth to a monstrous thing, which was brought up in the movie as well. So it was kind of like a good, I don't know, it was a good line, stuck with me.
Yeah. I just want to bring up a really fast thing after that. With you talking about how she's a monster and how she had a child, it kind of like bled into her like character's mental state of how she was obsessive about keeping things. Mm-hmm. She wanted to keep the child even though she knew it was going to die. She wanted to stay in the house even though she hated it, and she wanted to keep her brother for herself. Mm-hmm. And she was so like, she was a definition of clingy.
Oh yeah,
She's like a people hoarder.
Yeah.
All right, so I liked the butterflies, and I liked when they're walking in, like they're still stateside, and they see all the dead butterflies, and Edith's like, oh, I'm so sad. And Lucille goes, no, it's not sad, Edith. It's nature. It's a world of everything dying and eating each other right between our feet. And she just says it so, like, almost like a storybook voice. Like, oh, no, sweet child. Nature's killing us all.
All those lines were really good.
Again, hinting to her about to die.
That CGI shot though with the ants eating the butterfly, as soon as it bites the eye, I'm just like, it's like, I can't handle that. Just because then I just immediately imagine ants eating my eyes in my sleep, and I don't know why that's where my head goes, but I can't get it out of my head.
Don't worry, honey, they're not going to do that.
That's horrible.
I know.
Why did you just tell the audience?
Yeah.
Don't worry,
Sweet
I'm not going to
dreams,
worry
everybody.
about that.
So mine's one that CHEWIE mentioned earlier with super judgmental, gossipy ladies when they're still stateside. And they compare her to Jane Austen, saying that she's going to die a spinster. And she says, oh, I'd rather be Mary Shelley, who dies a widow. And the first time around seeing that movie, I was like, good on you. But then the second time around, I was like, aha, because she does.
She definitely does.
That's right.
She is now a widow.
All right, so review system.
Who's
There
got
it
a
is.
good quote, guys?
Review system is going to be something that was already kind of mentioned today before we started recording, so it means nothing to our audience, but we're doing movies with colors in the title. I'm going with Blue Velvet.
Oh, good one.
Blue Velvet was a movie that was always kind of told to me. It's David Lynch's movie that is going to be like, it was super creepy and it's super fucked up and it's super horrible and like all these terrible things are going to happen. And I got this thing in my mind of what it was going to be. And when I finally saw it, I'm like, while it definitely is those things, it was not at all what I thought it was going to be. Like, not even remotely. Like it was just, it made me just feel sick to my core, but not in the same way. So much like Crimson Peak, I had in my head what this movie was going to be, and it was going to be fucked up and awesome and all these sort of things, and then it just wasn't that. It was still fucked up and awesome, but it was not the same movie that I had originally thought it was going to be.
Not bad.
That's fine.
I'll go with Red Dragon. It's color red, and of everybody involved, it's not my favorite body of their work, but it ended up pretty good in the end.
I'll pick Black Swan. Two females going head to head with the whole you don't know what's real, what's not, and you do actually get some surprises.
Oh, for a second there, when you said Black Swan, I thought you said Black Dahlia at first, and I'm like, oh god, what an awful decision.
Oh wow, I wondered why you reacted that way. I thought it was a good one.
And then I'm just sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, oh wait, no, that's a completely different good movie. I'm still just thinking, like, man, that doesn't sound like Black Dahlia at all. Oh, that's because it's
Black
not.
Swan.
I was gonna go with, or I am gonna go with, blue is the warmest color. Because it involves a relationship that starts out super intensely and you think is going to turn out well, like they're perfect for each other. But then it turns into this really like self-destructive like feeling where one's not getting what they need out of it and the other one just wants to desperately hold on no matter what, and she just feels like she can't live without the other person, but she has to let go.
Ooh, here, I've got one. Okay. Blue Ruin, because someone told me it was a horror film, but really it's a revenge story. And this was not a horror film, but a love story. And also Blue Ruin had like a weird sense of passion and auteurism, but
that
maybe
works.
shouldn't have been shot digitally. The end.
Yep.
Still haven't seen Blue Ruin. I've been told it's good.
Oh, it's so good.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I want to throw in mine really fast. Where the red fern grows, because love kills.
Oh, and dogs die.
Because they love the other one too much.
I can't deal with that.
Last but not least.
I have no idea. I'm so thrown off by this.
How about white men can't jump?
Ooh.
I don't think that one works.
You could totally make that one work.
I don't know if I can make that one work.
All right, I'm going to take a stab at this one here. We'll try a Clockwork Orange. And
okay.
Both movies kind of make something that could be beautiful not. And they do it in a very, very radical and twisted kind of way. And it kind of is like the same type of feeling that both of these movies, I feel like, are kind of trying to evoke.
All right, so that's everybody, right?
We did it.
Yeah.
We did it without John. We don't need you anymore.
Oh, that'd be the worst way to find out that you're fired. No, so I'll bring the episode to the close. Next week, we have our Batman 1989 versus Superman of 1978. Looking forward to that.
Yes, me too.
And we have a very special guest coming on that one, which I will reveal later. And then the week after that, we're taking off because we're going to WonderCon.
Because we're nerds.
Yeah. Which I might actually do something for WonderCon. I haven't decided if I will or not yet, but you'll find out if I do. And if I don't, nothing will happen.
You will also find out.
Passion of the Christ because it's Easter weekend.
No.
Never, ever again. Okay, so thanks to Ben for coming on.
Oh, Samantha Garrison.
There you go.
Danielle Dutton.
There it is. This will be fun to cut together later. And then CHEWIE and Ryan.
Hey, Chewie K. Darso.
Bye.
Bye.